And we'll get started. We'll get started in a moment with a song of welcome. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How beautiful it is to be back together with our community, brothers and sisters, friends, and we'll sing along with Cantor. This week, we come to the point in Torah where we read of Moses' trip back down the mountain after receiving Torah, bringing the 10 Commandments, and being greeted with an unexpected and most unappreciated sight. So he throws down those commandments, shatters them, and then the Israelites put them in the ark where they carry them for the rest of their days, broken, shattered, along the journey together. I'd like to share with you the thematically connected poem by Mary Oliver, who is not Jewish, but I think offers ideas that can open our hearts and certainly comes from a New England and specifically maritime background, as we'll see in this poem, that feel very true to our shoreline area as well. This poem is called Breakage. I go down to the edge of the sea. How everything shines in the morning light. The cusp of the whelk, the broken cupboard of the clam, the opened blue mussels, moon snails, pale pink and barnacle scarred, and nothing at all whole or shut, but tattered, split, dropped by the gulls onto the gray rocks, and all the moisture gone. It's like a schoolhouse of little words, thousands of words. First, you figure out what each one means by itself. The jingle, the periwinkle, the scallop, full of moonlight. Then you begin, slowly, to read the whole story. This evening, we enter the story of the Jewish people as we come to visit as a place of home and comfort, the story of our history and our freedom, our joys and our struggles, our fullness and our brokenness. All of these stories are part of our people's history and part of our prayer service together. So whether you come tonight holding joy or perhaps holding some broken tablets in your heart, you are most welcome here in our TBT family and community. We invite you to use the chat, say Shabbat Shalom to our friends if you've just come in, or perhaps even if you haven't, and let us know where you're joining us from this evening if you would like. I don't know if I see any of our Floridians here to make us jealous, but regardless of where you are, we're glad that you have come across the distance to join our Zoom sanctuary. We'll continue now with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. So if you have candles with you, please feel free to light them along with us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher
We breathe out, we breathe in, we welcome Shabbat. We leave whatever has been holding us back or occupying our minds back where it belongs in the work week, in the day-to-day world of busyness and duties. And we set aside with that deep breath, having lit those candles, all of what weighs us down so that we can feel the spirit and peace of Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you, peace always, O ministering angels of Shabbat. Let that angelic peace be in our homes and our hearts together as we sing Shalom Aleichem and Sadiq Katamar from our Kabbalat Shabbat service. Please sing with us.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon,
when Moses was delayed coming down the mountain, the people capitulated to a need. We don't know exactly what need, but some need. They made a golden calf, a young bull, as a symbol of divinity that they could connect to. Moses, when he comes down the mountain and seeing all of them dancing around that golden idol, he throws down those tablets in fury. But he actually heard about what was going on before he reaches the base of the mountain. Why doesn't he smash them as soon as God tells him what's happening? He only gets angry when he personally witnesses this behavior. Doesn't he believe God? The Midrash comes to explain in Exodus Rabbah. Those of you who are in the Jewish bookshelf class, that should be a familiar title. There we learn a lesson about Musar, about proper behavior. Whenever we hear something unpleasant or negative about someone else, we shouldn't assume that it's correct. Because according to the Midrash, even if one hears something critical from a trustworthy person, one is not permitted to accept the word of said person and to take action before one sees it is true for himself or herself. So Moses, in his action, models giving others kaf zechut, the benefit of the doubt. Imagine how different our world would be if we gave others that chance. Maybe not even every time, but imagine if we did it more, how many things could change. We continue with Lecha Dodi, our spiritual poem leading us into relationship with Shabbat, beckoning us to see God. Lecha Dodi.
And you might remember this tune from our Shabbat Shirah in January. And if you don't remember it after a couple of times, I promise it'll feel nice and familiar, like an old friend. Shema
And I'll invite us to stay standing if it's comfortable for Chatzi Kaddish and our call to prayer. Baruch Hu.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. Bechaye chorov yomechon uchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Bagala ubizman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehesh meraba mevorach le'alam ol me'almaya yirbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitala shemer kudsha brichu Le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'yimeru. Amen.
We can all have a seat as we continue with Ma'ariv Aravim, the blessing for the evening, the seasons, and yes, even the weather, even when it's windy, we still bless. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, who skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadata. Hakein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu u'v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayinu ve'orech yameinu u'vahem nehegei yomam v'layla, ve'ahavattecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
I invite us all to read together in English from our homes. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. And so will we as we sing Mi Chamocha. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Blessed are you, O God, who redeemed Israel. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We continue with Vishamru.
Israel
how wonderful it is to see so many screens full of Shabbat candle lights and smiling faces and song and wagging cattails and so many other things that are such a part of the joy of sharing this moment in community together. I had the opportunity recently to reflect on something that I said last week in services before the Amidah, because of course we do have that first blessing of the Amidah, the Avot v'Imahot, the prayer concerning our ancestors, in which we thank God for their merit. It's called Zichut Avot, this theological concept of our ancestors were meritorious, and we hope that we can thank them for it in some way, thank God for being good to them on their merit and therefore being good to us. But actually, that's not the full story of the lineage of Judaism. And I was recently reading something by Adam Grant, who is, as some of you know, an industrial organizational psychologist whom I admire. And Adam Grant says this: too many people spend their lives being dutiful descendants instead of good ancestors. The responsibility of each generation is not to please their predecessors. It's to improve things for their offspring. It's more important to make your children proud than your parents proud. Now, this is the sort of idea that I think is designed to be digestible on social media for a vigorous conversation. But of course, it's not an either or proposition. It's not a choice between descendants and ancestors. Judaism has us think of both the generations who came before and on whose shoulders we stand, and also the responsibility to the coming generations. I invite us all to reflect on this duality of those who came before and those who will follow, and ourselves right in the middle. Where does that statement hit you at this stage of your life? Maybe something to reflect on during our silent prayer. I invite you now to please rise, and we'll join in the first three blessings of the Amidah before a moment of silent reflection.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Uvi Agita Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Marid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, U'Matir Hasurim, U'Mekayem Emunato, Lishnei Afar, Michamocha B'Givurot, U'Mito Melach, Melech Meimit U'Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Chayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kedoshim B'Chol Yom Yahalelucha Selah, Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
Continue with a moment of meditation and private reflection as we conclude our prayers privately. I invite you to have a seat as soon as you're ready to do so, but not before.
Shalom b'mrama, u'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We pause now for a moment of prayer for those who are in need of healing in our community. And I'll share the names of those I know about. Feel free also to share your own in the chat if I don't read the name of your loved one. We think of our temple members, Amy Agranoff, Allison Broder, April Diamato, Norma Diamond, Henry Gettenberg, Josh Lipschitz, Sabrina Maurer, and Paula Retsky. And our loved ones, Connie Ambrosino, Harriet Cohn Haggerty, Rochelle Downheimer, Mickey Bart, Jay Fliss, Sue Yaris, Mark Ostreicher, Matthew Pincus, Sydney Scher, Bart Young, Richard O'Hara, Robert Harris, Anthony Santamoro, Ben Peck, Mark Potter, Martha Potter, Ethan Stark, Kyle Stark, Joni Pepper, Melissa Mihalko, Joan Sidney, Phoebe Turtledove Katayanagi, Ira Weiss, Peggy Pig, Elizabeth Powers Brown, Rebecca Levy, Amanda Walyursek, and Adam Zielinski. We add those names whom you have mentioned here in the chat. Scott Casper, Suzanne Kingsbury, Edna Zohar, and Barbara Baker. We pray Mishaberach Avotenu V'imotenu, Mishaberach Dorotenu, May the God of our ancestors and the God of our descendants be with us and be with those we love in their moments of difficulty, struggle, and illness, and that they find strength and healing. We'll lift our voices together as we sing these words of Misha Berach. I'm very happy to share that we have a guest darshanit tonight, a guest Torah teacher. So I'd like to invite to share a few words of Torah with us, Rabbi Susan Landaumos, the other Rabbi Moss in the Zoom room.
Thanks for the spotlight, Corey. A lot of my Torah, of late at least, comes from my time in the hospital. Even if I wasn't a chaplain, I think I would encounter Torah everywhere in the hospital. You are familiar with the saying, there are no atheists in a foxhole? Well, let me tell you something. There are some atheists in hospitals, and I don't think either option is easy. I'm posed with questions often, especially in a moment of someone of faith experiencing that little trickle of doubt coming in. He will get better. I know he will. Won't he? Or, I've seen miracles happen before. I believe God can cure her if it's God's will. Don't you believe, chaplain? My mind in those instances is often filled with the facts and figures that I've heard from my medical provider colleagues conveying concern. But I say, I do believe. And I do. Why not? Judaism is not usually considered to be a religion of dogma or ideas. It is much more action-driven than faith-based, but faith can surely play a role. When people ask me about my own faith, I might give a different answer depending on my mood or the situation, but almost always I think of it as a choice. I can choose to believe in something I do not understand, cannot prove, and hope is true. It's a perfectly legitimate response to doubt, and so much more meaningful, to me at least. I think that in Judaism, faith is a choice, and faith is often a challenge to hold two conflicting truths at the same time. F. Scott Fitzgerald said that the test of a first rate of intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. In my opinion, the experience of holding two opposing truths, that type of cognitive dissonance, is just as much an emotional or existential experience as it is an intellectual one. And it is a compelling way to talk about my experience of faith. Two of my recent patients in particular come to mind. One is actually a chaplain. Wouldn't you know that when in the hospital, even chaplains need chaplains? This man in his early 60s has based his life's work on the call that he felt toward ministry. When he became suddenly and dramatically sick, passing out while at work on his birthday, he was brought to the hospital and quickly diagnosed with multiple myeloma. His response was in many ways understandable. Why would God do this to me? I'm a good person. I only try to help others. He was angry with God, and we sat in that anger together. The next time I went to see him, he said he feels his body is healing, a gift from God. And as he feels his body improving, he feels his relationship with God healing too. The storm is almost over, he said. A moment later, his face scrunched up and his eyes filled with tears. But I just don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm scared. Another moment later, but I will be okay. God is with me. Throughout our conversation, it seemed that he felt tossed between conflicting emotions, trying valiantly to land in a place of confidence and closeness to God, and then being overcome by tears. I tried to validate for him that both can be true. He can be feeling afraid and strong in his faith. He can be uncertain about his health and certain that God is with him, no matter what. He can even feel anger and love toward God at the same time. Both are true. And the test of faith doesn't have to be choosing one over the other. It can be harder and more real to hold both simultaneously. Another patient, this one a woman in her early 40s. She's dying after years of having colon cancer. Her spiritual journey has taken her away from her parents' fundamentalist, very Catholic, very black and white thinking. She's not exactly sure where it's taken her. And that feels even scarier now that she's nearing death. What will happen to me? Where will I go? And even more so, what do I tell my children if I'm not sure myself? After many hours of conversations on the topic, I think she's coming closer to articulating her truth in a way that honors her value of honesty in parenting and providing comfort to her children. I think she's going to end up telling them something like, I am not sure where I will go when I die, but I think there is some kind of existence, and I hope I will still be connected to you. She feels worried and hopeful, cautiously optimistic and concerned. I think she is going to find peace. Our ancestors in this week's portion, Kitisa, they could have benefited from some of her wisdom and her honest struggle. Waiting at the base of the mountain, they vaguely recall that Moses said he would come back to them. They mostly understand that Moses had important business with God, something that will likely benefit them in the end. But that was weeks ago. It's starting to feel a little chaotic around here. How can we be so sure he's coming back? How can we be sure about, well, anything that brought us to this point when it seems to have disappeared? The Israelites' faith at this point in the story is in its infancy. It's brand new. It's pretty simple and rather fragile. Going from a life in ancient Egypt where the gods had faces, physiques, clear roles and personalities, it was hard enough getting to know a God of invisible presence and varied traits. An act such as raining plagues down on the land or splitting the sea is like a type of training wheels, helping the Israelites expand their schema of understanding what this relationship can look like. Even though we cannot see or hear our new God, we can at least see sure signs of God's presence among us. This we can get behind. So what happens when God seems to then disappear? We are all familiar with the folly of the golden calf, representing a total backsliding from all of the progress that they had made. The Israelites were not ready to both know that God is near and that God is far. The Israelites were not ready to reconcile the feelings of understanding that God will return Moses to them and not knowing when this might happen. They struggled to feel confident when left with their own ideas and doubts. They hadn't yet practiced sitting with that discomfort and that thrill of holding these thoughts together. That is a more mature faith. It's not easy, but I find it to be more real. It certainly helps me. I have faith that my first patient's life will never be the same again, and that he will find meaning in his new relationship with God. I believe that my second patient will not find herself in the heaven that her parents once told her about, and I don't know where she will be. But she is a good person with a piece of divinity in her soul, and I believe that part of her will continue to live on. I want to believe that, even when it's hard. Every day I learn from my patients the same lessons that we start to learn in this week's Parsha. Choosing to believe in two conflicting truths is hard, and that's why it's called faith. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and thank you very much to Rabbi Landaumos for sharing some Torah and also some insight into your daily life and your work. We'll continue now with the conclusion of our service with Aleinu L'Shabeach. So if it's comfortable, please rise along with us. And if you have your prayer book, it's on page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atid gedula le'yotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzon, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'god aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You can have a seat as we turn to memory, remembering our people, all those who have suffered and died, so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than just a distant shadow. This President's Weekend, we think about our brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength. We remember the fallen of our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life. Most of us hold in our hearts somebody we knew and loved who was in love with life and whose departure from life feels perhaps like even more of an injustice for that reason. In the period of Shiva and Shloshim, and I invite you to rise as I read the name of your loved one if you wish. We remember Sandra Hyman, mother of Leslie Hyman and Blanche Boyd. We remember Valmore T. Langevin, father of Ted Langevin. And recently passed away, though his funeral has not yet occurred, is Jeff D'Amato, brother of April D'Amato. We also honor those who passed away at this season in years past, including Anna Rosenthal, Jane Rudner, Louis Galitzer, Janet Kevrick, Milton Sachs, Albert Chorney, Max Goldberg, John Jack Rackison, Walter Harding, Claire Cagno, Rosabelle Ronnie Rosenberg, Esther Brisman, Sylvia Lashenik, Helen Racer, Mildred Sholnick, and Belle Belsky. There are others who we're thinking of in memory. You can feel free to share their name in the chat if you wish. And if not, of course, you can hold them in your heart as we all reflect on those we have loved and lost. I'll invite us to please rise together if it's comfortable to do so for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, ve'alma divrach yireutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei Rabba, mevorach le'alam u'le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemei d'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all those who grieve this evening. As together we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
You can all have a seat. And some of us can have an owl, it appears. Who is that? Can we learn who that is? You don't have to tell us if you don't want to. Maybe you can tell me afterwards. Well, Shabbat Shalom to all of our friends and creatures, whether they're human or not, whether they're alive or not. We're glad that you're all here together. And we're also glad that Susan Lurie's here with us to greet us tonight. So Susan, take it away. You're muted though.
It's a good idea not to be muted. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. A warm welcome to any guests here with us tonight. My name is Susan Lurie, and I am president of Kolami, our wonderful women's group here at TBT. Tomorrow, join us on Zoom for Jewish mindfulness and meditation at 8 a.m., followed by Torah study at 9 a.m., led by Rabbi Moss. Links are in your inbox. This Sunday, February 20th, there's no religious school in observance of President's Day. Enjoy the long weekend. A few copies of Art Spiegelman's acclaimed graphic novel, Mouse, are still available. If you're interested in a free copy, please contact the office. We hope to resume praying together in person once more again on Friday, March 4th at Camp Laurelwood. See you there. Again, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Susan. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we can make some Kiddush together now. So if you have your Kiddush wine and challah nearby, this is the time. And Kenta will lead us in the blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu קידשנו במצוותיו ברצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה ורצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן.
לחיים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Te'avon. I get to eat that challah in just a few minutes. I'm very excited to come upstairs. All right. Cantor, do we have a closing song tonight?
Yeah. We're going to close tonight with Od Yavo, which I think everybody knows the words to. So
Excellent. A song for peace. We love those. We have lots of them, and this is a favorite. So please join in this prayer for peace. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'ol kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'ol kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'ol kulam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'ol kulam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'ol kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'ol kulam.
Well, it's so good to see all of you here together. We wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy the long weekend. And we look forward to seeing you in person, God willing, before too long. Feel free if you'd like to unmute and share a Shabbat wish for everybody. And have a wonderful weekend.